So I was taking days off, and I was just drinking until I fell asleep. Like, all I wanted to do was be asleep. Like, how I equated it was I couldn't kill myself. I couldn't do that to my family. But that was the closest I could get to feeling like I was dead, I guess.
We're off our horses, and the other guys stepped out and got off their horses, and then that's just when the rain of fire came and everybody started running, trying to get it. We just didn't know where everything ringing around. We didn't know where everything was coming from, and officers started, all the radio chatter, everybody thinking that there were snipers from above.
That week changed the entire nation. I feel like, and I say that because I actually saw these officers come in from all over the country because I sang at all the funerals. We had the president come into town, and I was sitting there, behind him as he's speaking, and the stage that we were sitting on, just the way that the spotlights were on our face, we couldn't see anything past the first 3 rows of people, into the sea of people. And the first 3 rows were all the families. And I mean, it was just completely heartbreaking. Going to rehab, getting away from your phone, you can't pay attention to what's going on at home. You can't pay attention to the news. You honestly can't really pay attention to anything negative. And so it really gives you the opportunity to focus on yourself. And as parents, spouses, police officers, we don't get that opportunity. There's always somebody else that we need to take care of or pay attention to.
You're listening to the ATO Bridging the Divide podcast, brought to you by the Assist the Officer Foundation.
Since 1999, the ATO has given assistance to the first responder community. And now we want to give them a platform to hear their incredible stories.
We also want to hear the stories of the many people that support us.
Our community is small, but it is strong.
We have differences. We don't always agree, and we all make mistakes.
But together we can grow, we can heal.
And we can learn from those mistakes.
And together we can bridge the divide.
Burn the boats. Over 500 years ago, in the year 1519, a Spanish conquistador named Cortez set sail from Cuba to the shores of Mexico. He had only 600 men facing the powerful Aztec Empire, a civilization of hundreds of thousands. When his ships landed on the unfamiliar coast, Cortez gave a shocking order: burn the boats. His men were stunned. Burn the boats? How will they return home? They cried. Cortez replied, if we're going home, we'll go home in their ships. By destroying their only way back, Cortez forced his men to focus entirely on moving forward. There was no retreat, no safety net, only victory or death. With no choice but to fight, his soldiers were fully committed against overwhelming odds. They went on to defeat the Aztec Empire. Today, burn the boats means to cut off all escape routes, to commit so completely to a goal that turning back is not an option. It's about giving your full effort, knowing that your only way is forward. Each story carries the same timeless message. True commitment begins when retreat is no longer an option. Today's guests have a story of overcoming the odds. Each took their own paths in life that eventually intersected, and they both learned through hardships to pick each other up so that they can both walk together, hand in hand, through adversity. Silver, Haley, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Of course, thank you.
I want to welcome on our co-hosts. We got Silver Valencia, and we have Haley Valencia, and we have my partner, Kent Wolverton's here.
Special guest partner.
Special guest partner.
Always.
Silver, I want to get into your story. Where do you work now? And we just talked a minute ago about you being over a new special project. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I have been assigned to supervise a pilot program with the department. It is the homeless outreach team. Right now, we just recently became operational, and we are tasked with working with other city partners in identifying homeless camps within the city of Dallas and working to get the occupants of those camps outreach, and those that for the most part don't take the outreach. I mean, we still have our job, our mission, and we enforce the law, and we take action and work on taking the camp down, removing the camp, cleaning it up.
Well, there's plenty of that here.
It's got work for a while.
Yeah, you got your work cut out. You get a lot going before the summer really kicks off. As this unit evolves, there's going to be a lot more, probably media, I would imagine, on this.
We actually just started yesterday.
That's what makes things grow.
Yes, it does.
So real quick, how long have you been on the department?
I'm just shy of 29 years.
Okay. Yeah, 7492. He's like 10 badges off me.
Look at all that hair too. Golly.
Man, I know.
I'm doing
still
good.
dark.
Man,
No, you're dyeing that, aren't you?
Yeah.
No,
Haley.
good genes, good genes.
Yeah,
I wish
silver only a name, huh?
Mhm.
Weird.
True.
Sergeant Valencia, you ready to get going?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to take you way back into where you grew up and what was home life like.
I was born in Fort Hood, and my dad got out of the Army pretty quickly after that. And we moved to Northern California, lived a couple different places there. Then we moved to Portland, then to St. Joe, Texas, then to Louisville, Texas, then to Kemp, Texas, then to a few other places. That's just by 4th grade. We moved a lot.
That was a lot. Yeah, that's it's hard to kind of put your roots down.
Yeah, home for me has always been wherever my family is.
So as far as like siblings,
I have an older brother and I have 2 younger sisters.
and you're kind of stuck in the middle. Okay. So what did the family dynamic look like with all the moving around? Because I mean that affected everybody.
It did, because my mom was working. My brother took care of us a lot as far as kind of, I guess, being the father figure a little bit. He's 4.5 years older than I am. So he was 10 when I was 5, and then my 2 younger sisters, obviously. So he took care of us a lot.
As far as friendships, how that affected friendships with you growing up, how did that look?
I didn't have a problem making friends at new schools, but, you know, this was before social media. This was before long distance calling was cheap.
A lot of collect calling.
Well, in other words, we just, honestly, I didn't keep up with anybody. So I just go to a new school, make new friends, and forget the old ones, essentially.
Well, you had to. It was a necessity because there was no, like you said, there was no way to connect. That was one thing that I think everybody's spoiled now with the connectivity we have with everybody. Some people you don't want to stay connected to, but they're out there lingering and lurking. But back then, you're right. You're gone.
Right. It's crazy, actually, how you can keep up with people that you haven't even spoken to since high school now.
Yeah. I see a lot of people with friend suggestions. I'm like, nope. So St. Joe's, Texas?
Yes, it's east of Gainesville. Or, no, west.
Okay. I've never heard of that, and I've been here in Texas my whole life. And so it sounds like you moved all over the country and lived different corners of this.
Mostly I've lived in Texas and
Okay.
a little bit in Oklahoma.
Did you go to college?
I went to UTA right after I graduated high school, but it was an extreme culture shock, and I hated it.
How so?
Well, whenever I graduated in class of 22. And academically, I did very well. I was in every sport. I was in every club. And whenever I went to college, I didn't realize that you had to try out for these things to be a part of it.
Right.
And, because I was used to moving schools and you just show up and the schools were always small, so you're on the team. So I really missed the extracurricular part. And then on top of that, everyone at UTA, it was honestly kind of hard to make friends there. Everyone was pretty introverted and just really kind of focused on their own academic stuff, and going to a school with that many people and not really having any clubs or sports or anything to be a part of.
It sounds like you kind of went from swimming in a pond to an ocean at that point of people.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're just kind of like going along, because I know that when you go to college, you're looking for fun, right? You're trying to engage and build a community, but you also have classes and grades to keep up.
Yes, and I honestly was always very shy and kind of introverted myself when I was younger. And so being a part of different groups like that kind of got me into a place where I could make friends easily. And I moved to Dallas after I graduated high school. I moved in with my brother while he was going through the Dallas Academy.
Okay.
And
Get into that, please. The Dallas Academy and your brother.
Right. So I graduated in 2007. My brother started the police academy during that year, and he had just gotten out of the Army. So I moved in with him to kind of help him raise his son, to help take care of him, and to, have a place to live while I was going to UTA. So honestly, it was a lot of things compounding. It was, kind of not really finding a place at college, and then also helping raise a baby at the same time whenever I was 17.
No, that's a lot to take on. And it's a lot for you to juggle before you even really know who you are.
Right. And so I ended up making friends with people that I worked with, and I won't say that it was a bad thing, but the people that I worked with, like, they were into, partying and drinking and all these things. So I got kind of introduced to that really young.
Yeah.
And in high school, I didn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, small town living is because what is the largest city that you lived in with all this moving around?
The largest school that I remember either was in Golden, Colorado, or Kemp, Texas.
Really? Because those aren't that big. They're pretty small. Kemp.
Yeah, Kemp, I think there was like 160, 70 people in my class.
Yeah, so that's why you go into UTA in the Dallas area. It is a culture shock.
It was very different. I'm used to living out in the country, riding the bus to school. Just everybody knows everybody, at least in your grade. And when I went to St. Joe, I had gone there in 2nd grade, 9th grade, 11th, and 12th. And so I actually knew everybody since I was a kid.
Yeah, I grew up in Dallas, and I moved to Quinlan, which is it's small. It's out east and small. But I got to say that I did enjoy the country life more than what was going on here. Right,
and I did too, and I am waiting patiently till we retire until we can get back out to the country.
Move off the grid, yeah, not the city, yeah.
Maybe not off grid, but definitely.
As close as we can get to it.
Good. So your brother, he was in the Dallas Academy?
Yes, so he started with Dallas, and then whenever he talked to me about hiring on and I started applying, I didn't realize he was applying to DPS at the same time.
Oh, he didn't let you in on that. So you get into law enforcement. He kind of talked you into it to come to Dallas?
He did. As a kid, I never really had a strong desire for any one particular job. Anybody who knows me knows that I have a lot of interests, and so it was kind of hard for me to narrow down exactly what I wanted to do because I like everything. I like learning new things. I have a lot of hobbies.
You should see our craft room.
Oh, I'd like to. Yeah. No, it's impressive, and it occupies your mind as opposed to mindless scrolling on a electronic device.
I'm not going to lie. I do a lot of that.
Well, I do too, but yeah.
However,
but it is mindless.
My feed is curated into the stuff I'm interested in. It's a lot
you get some exotic meals sometimes.
Ah.
Yeah, it's cooking, farming, making soap, anything you can think of. Like, I just like learning how to do things.
Which actually leads to some of our other projects, the quail, the rabbits.
Joe's is mostly exotic males.
Yeah, exotic males. That's all I'm into.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, that's not for air. No, it's good. So, what about you're a person that takes a topic and you become extremely interested in it. You're interested in law enforcement. I know your brother kind of started nudging you in that direction, but what about serving kind of resonated with you most?
I never knew exactly what I wanted to do. I've always been the type of person who was trying to help people. Whenever I was in school, I would, kind of make jokes if I could tell people we're having a bad day or something bad happened. Like, I was always trying to, make people happy. And so whatever job I ended up doing, I knew I wanted it to be something that helped people or served people. I originally was looking at pre-med. That's what I was going to college for when I started. I wanted to be a pediatrician because I enjoyed kids. And I started doing pretty poorly in college my first year. I lost my scholarship. And so I started actually trying out for a couple of fire departments. And because I felt like it still had a medical aspect to it. And
It does, yeah.
that's what I thought I wanted to do. So I tried out for the McKinney Fire Department, and I scored a 95 or a 96 on the written test, and I wasn't even in the top 50.
Wow. And that was back when there were so many people applying for just a handful of spots, especially in a smaller city like McKinney.
Yeah, it was actually funny because while I was there, I actually saw one of my teachers from high school. He was trying out for them. He made it.
Did you apply for Dallas Fire?
I didn't. I don't know why I didn't think about it. I tried out for Carrollton. I failed the physical fitness test just because it was a lot of upper body, and that wasn't something I was focused on.
Right.
So after I failed that, my brother, he just kind of he's been trying to get me to be a police officer forever. Like as kids, he would give me tickets on my bicycle when we would play Hot Wheels, and he would
slow it down.
Yeah, he would try to pull me over when we were playing Hot Wheels, and so I would pick my car up and run off, and then he'd get mad, saying, cars don't fly.
Right. Yeah, they don't fly away like the Jetsons.
Yeah, so he had been trying to talk me into law enforcement forever, and my perception of law enforcement at the time, it wasn't that it was bad, it just, my only perception of it was, getting tickets, and I didn't want to be that person who did that to people.
What year was this?
The year that I applied?
Yeah.
I applied in 2011. I hired on in 2012.
Okay.
Because of how long the process takes.
And when you got selected to go to the academy, at what point was your brother? You said he was in the process of DPS. How'd that go?
I hired on in May 2012. That's when I started the academy. My brother started the academy for DPS in June or July. I think it was June.
Man, it was like a bait and switch.
Yeah, I thought we were going to be Batman and Robin out here. No. I did apply for DPS when they were doing a lateral.
Oh, okay.
But it didn't work out.
He's still with DPS?
Yes, he is. He's a lieutenant over the Greenville office.
Oh, well, I guarantee you knows my brother, Paul Smith, who just retired last year as a lieutenant over intelligence, and he was in the Garland office. Paul, yeah, you had to ask him if he knows Paul Smith. That's my stepbrother.
I think I did ask him. I don't think he did know him.
Oh, really? Wow, because my brother actually lives, he grew up in Quinlan. I lived with him. I moved in with him when I was in high school. And Paul goes to the academy, and it's very rare that you go back to where you came from. He went back to patrolling Greenville off 30 and Wesley Street out in that area, and then he worked there for years, and then he moved up to the Garland offices in criminal investigations.
He's only been back up here for probably the last month. He was down in Austin.
Okay.
Yeah, he's bounced around. He went to Pecos for a while, and then he came back to McKinney, and then he went to
the
Austin.
way that their promotion works is you can only promote pretty much if you'll take a spot that's open. So a lot of times you have to move. So for him to promote to sergeant, he had to go out to West Texas. And
it's not a bad promotion thing, because if you don't get hired, you don't promote.
Wow, okay.
So you can die on the list.
Yeah, you have to apply for it. And
if you don't get hired for that spot, you don't promote. At least that's our understanding of it. So we would have to apply to be take a sergeant spot. And if you're promoted up to sergeant, and if you don't get hired by that unit, then you die on the list, and you have to retest.
Wow, I think you have to be a sergeant to be a detective, one of the detectives, right? Is that
right? So the way their process works is, or the way it was explained to me by the recruiter, is once you have 4 years on, you can take the test for sergeant or corporal. And you have to be a sergeant to be, like a Texas Ranger or like on their drug task force or anything like that.
Yeah, the Rangers are impressive. I had quite a few friends on there known from my brother, so DPS has helped me a lot when I was out on the streets messing with drugs and gangs, so it was a good connection to have.
Yeah, ultimately I'm glad that I didn't get it. just because in Dallas, being a city officer is a completely different culture. You have that comfort, that safety net, that your cover is right around the corner. And honestly, I think I like that a lot more.
Yeah, the working one of these county roads in the middle of the night, there's nobody around except you and the stars and a car you're pulling over. I've seen the video that people around. I've seen the dash cams of it could be a knockdown drag out and you're the only one there.
Right.
With multiple people. Yeah, it's
plus if you get kind of tossed around in Dallas to go, you get pulled to work somewhere. Right. You're still in Dallas. You still go home at the end of the day. When you work for the state, you get sent, like all the way down to the border, and you're away from your family for a couple weeks at a time sometimes.
Yeah, my brother had to go even his last couple of years of being a lieutenant in intelligence. He had to go work 2 weeks stretches at the border.
Yeah, Jason was always down there at the border.
Yeah, my brother would always tell me that what you see on the news of how they say bad, it ain't close. It's bad. So anyway. So 2012, you start the academy. So tell us about that. What class was it?
328. And it was, I'll be honest, I don't have a military background, so I wasn't used to the paramilitary structure that the academy has. And I had never worked somewhere where it was so strict.
You weren't St. Joe's anymore in Texas.
Yeah. I hated it. I wanted to quit almost weekly. We exercised a lot because we messed up a lot. But ultimately, it actually made my class really close because we were always looking out for each other, trying to make sure that we didn't get smoked because we got smoked all together.
Who were your instructors?
Mickey Hicks was my coordinator. Mary Lavender was our DT instructor. And then we had 2 different advisors. We had Ross Stinson for a little bit and then George Prock. And Hicks and Lavender, they tore us up.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I was in really good shape.
Yeah, you're not gonna be lazy there.
No, Mary's not one to go light on anybody for anything.
No, we ran 6 miles frequently, like at a time, and did a lot of burpees. I think I started the academy being able to do maybe 5, 6, 7, 10 push-ups. By the end, I could do 60 without stopping.
Wow.
Which, for a girl, I feel like that's pretty
No,
good.
that's impressive. It's very impressive.
I'm just really glad I had Cletus Judge as my DT instructor because we didn't run hardly at all.
Bro,
we had D.D. Thomas, didn't we?
No, you did. I had Mumford, and then Cletus Judge was our class was his first academy class.
I had never seen anybody the size of Mumford before.
He was a tall guy.
The guy had veins that were bigger than my arms.
Yeah.
I was like, holy cow, this kid's huge. And he always wanted to use me as an example. I was like, thanks for that.
No, was Mary Silver? Was Mary your classmate?
No,
okay.
She wasn't.
It was close. She was close.
She was close. Yeah,
I knew she was somewhere around there because she was in the academy at the same time we were.
Mm-hmm.
So.
We were terrified of them during the academy, and it turns out that they're the sweetest people.
It's an act.
Outside of it.
It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah, I tell people, and I've said this before, and I was lucky. I mean, Mumford and Cletus, they were good to us, and they didn't smoke us, and they didn't run. Neither one liked to run, so we didn't run, and I was happy with that. But working out, didn't have a problem with that. But they're doing that to make you better and to potentially save your life if you're in that situation. But at the time, you don't see it.
Right, and I see the necessity of it, but it sucked.
It does suck, and I also miss the real annoying sir, ma'am, as they're going down the hallway. They didn't have that.
No, they did not.
Yeah. I still help with CIT, so teaching it out there, so I still get it occasionally.
It makes you smile. I mean,
it makes me laugh.
It reminds me of those birds on the Finding Nemo movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But we didn't have the Dickies either. We had to wear. I don't think you didn't.
We didn't have Dickies. It was suit and tie until we passed T-Cole, and then they got in uniform.
So all of us were pretty much poor. So we would
same rotation. Yes.
Yeah, same shirt, same pair of slacks, and rotating ties, and thinking that.
The thing is, you never knew who was who because we also had in-service was at the same academy.
That's right.
So everybody was always mingled, and you just had to watch out who you were bumping into or Who
Right.
you were in line at the phone bank there in the break room.
You could tell though, because usually the people in in-service wouldn't come in dress clothes. You know,
True,
I had
true.
I had the cheap J.C. Penney St. John Bay shirts and cheap ass outfits. So, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have minded the Dickies going through.
We were going to have a Dickies burning party after we graduated, but
Should have.
it's just, you know,
destroying city property.
whenever you get out on training, we're all on different schedules, and it just didn't match up.
What did you? Okay, so I got to ask you this. So you didn't like the academy, and I've had many people who didn't like it for various reasons. But what you did like is the bonds that you made, and how you basically had a little family in your class.
Yeah, I feel like it made us a lot closer, even if we didn't even particularly, you know, like each other's personalities. We all still looked out for each other. And that's something that was very eye-opening about the culture of police in general, is you may not like who you go answer calls with, but at the end of the day, we still all would pretty much take a bullet for each other. And it's just something about the culture that it's amazing.
Yeah, that is true. Because you go through your career, and all of us sitting here have been here for a good while. You run across people you don't care for, and once the time to go home is, you don't really want anything to do with them.
I wouldn't waste my coffee on putting you out if you were on fire, but I'll still take a bullet for you.
You'll save that person's life if
Yes.
you were called to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a unique job. When you got out of the academy, you got on the streets. Where did you go?
I did my training at Central.
Man, there's a lot going on there.
There is. It's small, though, and I actually liked it. Plus, because of where it's situated, it really has a good mix of everything.
It does. And the geography is, I mean, it's pretty tight down there. Like,
it is. A lot of people don't like it because there's one-way streets, but honestly, at this point in time, they actually turned a lot of them two ways, and so there's only few. And I mean, to me, if I hear an address for a call on Channel 1, I can go to it without any map because I worked there most of my career.
what kind of work did you gravitate to?
I was just kind of down for whatever came my way. For a little bit, I worked with CRT and deployment. Like, they kind of pulled us over and let us train under them. I enjoyed the deployment stuff. I enjoyed chasing dope. It kind of just depended on the season of my career. Like, there was some times where I just wanted to go and kind of take the simple report calls. There was times where I wanted to get into the crazy stuff and, you know, get that adrenaline dump. And there were times in my career where I avoided it because I didn't like it anymore.
Well, that's the beauty of working in a city like Dallas. You really have a lot of everything, and you can really pick what you want to be. You pick who you want to be and what you want to do.
I got a question. I never even thought about it before, and I guess we've never talked about it. What pulled you towards PAL?
I was on training at Central. I went to CBD for a little bit because one of us from my class had to go after we finished training. Very quickly bid back to Central just because CBD is so small. While I was at Central, they actually needed to do a body-for-body transfer. I forgot the officer who I was replacing, but they asked me to go to Explorers. I didn't even know what Explorers was. So I
saw
worked.
the movie.
Yeah, so I had worked there for a little bit. I applied for Knock and Talk before I went over there, and I ended up finally getting chosen for Knock and Talk. And then after I ended up going back to patrol, PALs came open. I don't know. Honestly, I've always I've always liked working with kids. I used to coach volleyball. I enjoyed coaching. I enjoyed teaching. So it just, whenever I heard that was even a thing.
Can you describe for the listener what PALS is? What does it stand for? And also what's the function?
It used to be Police Athletic League, or at least it probably still is in some parts of the country, but it's Police Activities League. And it was started, honestly, I don't want to say because I don't know off the top of my head, but it was started, I want to say back in the 80s in like New York. And it was basically to give the kids an outlet, something to do to kind of bring crime down. And so it was police mentoring kids. And the thing is, it allowed us to build this relationship with the kids in the community and give them something to do. So one, it builds trust. And then it also kind of teaches them not to fear us. but also they get to see, the human side of you, and you get to give them a good advice, and then it just gets them involved in things as an outlet. So at the time that I was up there, we had 2 boxing programs. The boxing programs did great. Some of these kids went to like nationals, I think. We had chess tournaments, we did disc golf, we had leadership programs, we had like female mentor programs. I taught financial literacy to high school kids, and we had a ton of different programs, that were kind of like shorter. We would just go out and do a burst, or maybe like a one-day event or something.
No, that's amazing because I've talked about it before. Right now, I'm doing the Dak Prescott mentorship program, and I have 2 high school kids assigned to me, and this is my 3rd year doing it. It's the 3rd year of its existence, but it's a similar mission is community engagement 101, but doing it at the youth level. And I think that's really, really important, especially for our perception, because there's a lot of kids that their only contact with police is bad contact.
Right. And, when kids are preteens and teenagers, they're forming their whole perception of everything. And having, good mentorship at that time it's paramount.
Oh, yeah, I agree. No, I didn't know it started in New York, but that kind of makes sense. It's either always starting on the West Coast or East Coast, and then it moves towards the center at some point with community policing. Right.
And at the time that I was up there, I knew more about it. I've been out of it almost 8 years.
Is it still going here in EPD?
It is. It has gotten a lot smaller. I think COVID kind of ruined it a little bit for a little while.
So I'm definitely going to shift gears here and get into a year that was horrific for the city and the country. 2016. It was bad. We've talked about it before on this show. It was a bad year for law enforcement. There was a lot of protest against law enforcement across the country, and it was usually focused on a handful of incidents that happened in different parts of the country. And Dallas was no different. We had a lot of protests and going on. And I do want to get both of y'all's perspectives, and it's just y'all's perspectives of how you were at that moment and how you looked at what was going on.
For me at the time, I didn't know any of the officers that were involved in that, just because our department is so big. However, I was on the choir at the time, and I loved being in the choir. I kind of got roped into it, and I ended up falling in love with it. The group of people that are in it, even to this day, are amazing. But with the choir came singing a lot of funerals. And up until 2016 or 7/7, it hadn't been that many. And that week, that week changed the entire nation. I feel like, and I say that because I actually saw these officers come in from all over the country because I sang at all the funerals. And whenever we had the president come into town, and I was sitting there, behind him as he's speaking, and the stage that we were sitting on, just the way that the spotlights were on our face, we couldn't see anything past the first 3 rows of people, into the sea of people. And the first 3 rows were all the families. And it was just completely heartbreaking. The entire time we're sitting up there, we're just trying not to cry. The entire time. And honestly, it was horrible.
Yeah. No, and the cameras are right on you. And if you're directly anywhere near where the president is speaking.
I was sitting right behind him.
Yeah, I remember. No, I remember seeing I remember seeing it live, and then I remember the photos. Yeah.
Yeah, and the first officer's funeral was the DART officer. And I just remember after we get done with the funeral, we go outside and we're saluting as they're bringing the casket out and the bagpipes start. And I lost it. I just started crying. I couldn't stop. And, you're trying to be professional and serious, and you're in uniform, and I couldn't get it together.
The bagpipes, they're symbolic of a tragedy. They're at every police and military funeral.
I'm pretty sure those were my first police funerals, actually. I think that was the first time that I heard the bagpipes. And it just, I mean, even to this day, when I hear the bagpipes, like, it's so hard not to start crying.
It is a form of PTSD. It really is. I mean, you're associating that sound and that music to, and it'll always be attached to tragedy.
Right. And, growing up, going to funerals as a kid, your family members, like, a lot of my family actually lives very close to 100. And so most of them, like a lot of my great-grandmothers and stuff like that, I went to my grandmother's funeral as a kid. And the thing is, you're kind of disconnected from them at that point because they're so far removed. But I remembered not ever necessarily being sad about the person that we lost. I was always seeing the other people who were close to them grieving. That was always what gets me. And so, I mean, that week, it just, seeing all the families, like, it was a lot.
Yeah, I have a hard time dealing with watching other people grieve, even still to this day.
Right, and when I'm at the funerals now, I can't watch them, give them the flag.
Right.
And I've gone to the point where I honestly, even now, it's hard for me to go to the funerals. Yeah. When I was in PAL, I was actually in there with Officer De La Rocha, and he passed away a few years ago. And I went to his viewing. I couldn't even go up to the casket. I ended up just kind of going in, and I was in the back of the room, and I ended up just leaving because I couldn't hold it together.
Since you work with De La Rocha, I try to keep everybody's memory alive here. And, and now it's kind of come to once a year you see people put social media posts, their picture. And can you tell the listeners a little bit about him?
So when I worked with him in PAL, I mean, he was a good guy. He was super happy. He was a great dad, great husband. And he just, like, I didn't work with him as closely as I worked some of the other officers, but he was always in a good mood. He was just a good officer to be around.
I've always heard this. I didn't really know him personally, other than just in passing, but he was just a genuinely gregarious guy. He was always happy.
Yeah, he was very charismatic, and I always tend to draw to those people because I'm introverted, and so it makes it easier.
They look fascinating to you. Like, how are they doing this?
Well,
what's their secret?
They're a phenomenal buffer when you're in a group setting. You just kind of stand next to the charismatic one and let them talk.
Well, a lot of times you hope that it rubs off on you, and it kind of gives you a little bit more confidence and join in.
And it makes conversations easier. But yeah.
He's a huge Cowboy fan. I know that. De La Rocha.
Yes.
Loves his Cowboys.
Speaking of Cowboys, Silver, you were in the mounted unit at this same time. You had a different perspective with everything because number one, you were literally at a different perspective on top of a horse, but you were involved in all those protests and everything that went on, like front lines. Can you talk about that some?
Yeah, the night of 7/7, I mean, we were actually started that day off early. We were actually looking. There had just been a recent flood. Around July 4th, and we lost an SMU officer working an extra job.
Yes, and
we were out looking for his remains on Turtle Creek and in other areas of the Trinity. And when we got the phone call telling us, "Hey, head on back, get off the horses, give them a break. We got a protest tonight." And we came back and we went out, and we were actually posted up in a parking lot right there across from the park when the rally started, and we actually stepped off when the march happened. And Chief Anderson, he was major, I believe, at the time, told us, "No, y'all hang back. Y'all don't need to trail this march." So we returned to our post, and we watched them walk down the street and come back. And we were, remember Scott Shepard, he was on the other end of the line. There was only 5 of us that night when we heard the first shot. And I want to say him and I, we looked at each other and like, was that, kind of, did we just hear what we heard? And by the second shot ringing out, him and I were both flipping our legs over. We had the other guys sandwiched in because we were the bookends, and we were actually facing in an opposite direction. We had started doing that crisscross posting so that we can watch our backs. And we're off our horses, and the other guys stepped out and got off their horses, and then that's just when a rain of fire came and everybody started running. And we were trying to get at, we just didn't know where everything ringing around. We didn't know where everything was coming from, and officers started, all the radio chatter, everybody thinking that there were snipers from above, and they're moving around, and
multiples. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Just everything was in a disarray for a while. And I remember Scott and I, we were able to go and tie our horses off, or at least pass them off for a second, and started clearing out the parking lot. But then we got our horses. I mean, I remember walking up to the corner right there at Lamar and Maine, and watching the guys on the ground. And I try to walk out there, and I know Nigel, my horse, he would not get off my back pocket. And that guy, I guess, kept me from going out, walking out into the street. So I backed off and met up back with Scott, and said we were finally able to meet up with the rest of the guys in the back of the parking lot. We sat there until I ran and grabbed one of our trucks and trailers, and we were able to park it and get the horses on the opposite side of the trailer until we figured things out. That was a long night. We didn't get out of there till almost 5 a.m. And I mean, that next week, I mean, all of us, all Dallas officers' lives were flipped upside down, because you didn't know to mourn, you didn't know to watch your back, you didn't know. I know I saw how it affected the guys, some of the other guys in the unit walking around patrolling after that, constantly talking about snipers, and we're a sitting target. We were always a sitting target up on a horse.
You guys are basically a parade,
yes.
Right? So you're right out front. But there's a lot of training that goes into the horses as far as the environmental stuff and the loud noises and the smoke.
Desensitizing them.
You guys try to do a lot of that stuff, but it's different with gunfire, especially downtown, where there's so much the echoing from the buildings, and that's what caused so much chaos, was the echoing. It sounded like there was more shooters than there really was.
Yes.
Is there anything that you guys did after that because of that? Did you guys change the way you did anything because of what happened there?
Well, we started wearing our rifle vests, regardless of what we were told. We actually, that and then the later riots, we had already started, by 2020 riots, we had already started carrying some version of a med pack. Now, obviously, we carry our little med stuff for us, but it brought out the question, well, what about the horses? So we started carrying, one of us always carried a med pack to administer first aid if one of the horses got hit. So that did change that. And then just as I know command, it's never going to be good publicity for a horse to go down. I think we started getting more of the, get back to the rear kind of treatment. But, I mean, we were still willing to get out there, and hey, we brought in other groups to train more, especially when it came to gunfire. But the use of live rounds around an animal, sometimes not knowing how they're going to react, has always been very cautious training. But yeah, no, it opened up. It opened up the question, riot gear for the horses as well. We started really looking into that and different versions of armor, and we already had face guards, but we didn't, every little protest, we didn't plan to that degree. We actually started carrying lead ropes in our saddlebags to be able to tie the horses off, because none of us, we ended up using our reins to tie up to the fences. And I remember Trojan, Dale Ball's horse, ended up snapping his reins as we were moving around him, and once those were snapped, I mean, what do you use then? So he had to actually hold his horse the whole time until we got the truck and trailer up there. One of the more impactful things that came out of that was our responsibility for the riderless horse. We're already always doing police funerals, and it's a very short list to go around within the unit. of who's got it this time, and it's a two-man job. One, the officer on the horse, and then the caddy. So every police memorial, every large event that needed or called for that, especially like I said, an officer funeral, we're out there for that. Of the officers that passed away, I did all but one funeral. Well, I was either the caddy or the on the horse. I remember Zamarippa out there at the National Cemetery. That was a big one. But being there with all and we talk about the bagpipes. My first funeral that I did in the mounted unit, I was a caddy for Randy Hulse. He was up on the horse, but for Brian Jackson, and that's where I had been to funerals before. Larry Allen, Officer Allen. I say Larry Allen, but Officer Allen. When we were in the academy,
yes,
out of Southwest, that was the first police funeral I'd ever gone to, and I told myself there I'd make it to every funeral. I wasn't going to be like these older guys that now I'll pass. Well, now being the older guy and having been to my fair share, it's hard for me to attend a funeral because I'm thinking about all the rest of them that I've been through. And I think having been into, even the guys that do our honor guard, you're always at almost every funeral, and it just takes its toll.
Oh, absolutely. I watched the honor guard quite closely, and just like you said, when the choir's there at every event, they're there at every event, and there's no level of training you could have. There's no level of experience you can have that prepares you for that. And watching, hundreds, thousands of people grieve. We're all like sponges. We're taking all that in.
Well, some of your good friends, when they're in the field, or I say in the field, or out in the crowd, you don't want to ruin the funeral for the family because they're expecting a persona, an image of you up there on the horse. You got to be straight faced, very still, very, control the horse with the 21 gun salute.
Yeah.
And the trumpets playing and the bagpipes, and those guys always wanted to eat because you're standing in grass usually. That was always a fight, and so many factors playing in, and you're sitting out up there for so long as everybody's coming in, and they look towards you for that image, and you're seeing them break down, your friends, and just other officers that you knew were close to the officer that passed. It's gut wrenching at times.
I want to ask y'all both and talk about the department morale around that time.
I felt like a lot of people came together, but a lot of people, there were people that quit the profession completely. Some of them came back, some of them didn't. It just, honestly, it was sad. And the thing is, on top of, seeing everybody else grieving and all that, when you're in the academy, they're constantly pounding it into your head about how, you're a target, or you could be killed, or you need to watch your back. And, they're constantly putting this in your head. And then when you get out on the street, you're almost kind of terrified. But then, when you actually go through something like 7/7, it really makes you think about your own mortality. And you start being a little bit more cautious, and you start wondering, did I pick the right career? You start really going through all these different things in your head.
But we all deal with it in our own way in regards to every officer had to, especially those that might have worked around one of the fallen officers or answered a call with them, or just were affected in all different ways. And there was no, I won't say unified. The department, I'm not going to say it did a bad job, because it wasn't just here. It was was a Baton Rouge right after us, and all the different places they were getting affected. Us as a profession, we didn't know how to grieve with that kind of mass attack. It was one thing, 9/11 was, and we were here working during 9/11 too. So
right,
we've done a few. That was more detached, but that we can, I'm not going to say rationale it in regards to it was just a terrorist attack. It was a bad thing. We didn't understand why this guy did this that day, and why it seemed like we had a portion of the population turn on it, or at least that's what it felt like, because some people supported his actions. I mean, and that I think some officers capitalized on it and drew on the negativity of it, and weren't. It kind of closed themselves off, I think, as more as a defense mechanism to the outpouring of support we were receiving, that it was easier to say, no, everybody hates us, everybody wants us, and let's close ourselves off. So you really step over that line of us versus them, and you just solidify the fact of, nope, screw everybody else, we're blue, we're separate from them.
We're on this side and they're on this side. And
that's a horrible way to think of life and to, I guess, live this career.
It was kind of the first time that, you've seen officers die in the line of duty, and they were usually doing something, trying to arrest somebody or involved in a car accident in the scope of their profession, right? They were doing their job at that point. But to actually be attacked, just for your profession, that was an eye opener, and it was really weird. And I don't know that it's happened much since then. There's been ambushes and things like that, but this one was just different and on a much larger scale. I mean, 12 people got shot.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It was.
Did you question our service and what we were doing here in the city?
No, I think the entire political climate around our profession at that time, it was so frustrating for all of us. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, on top of being, sad about everything, we were angry and frustrated because we're out here trying to prove that we actually care about everybody that we're serving. And we have all these people who just think that we are, racist and just out here to get people and to ruin their lives and their day and to kill them. Yeah. And it was so frustrating because during all these political, years that we've gone through lately, I lost a lot of friends because we disagreed on things. And I'm like, I don't know how to tell you that I'm not a different person just because of the career I chose.
Yeah, it goes back to what you talked about earlier as far as working with people that you necessarily don't care for or agree with. But we also are tasked with protecting people and providing service to people that we really don't care for or don't agree with. We're used to it. Most of the other people on the outside, they're not forced to be in that position. And they look at it one way, and they usually only surround themselves in an echo chamber with other people, like-minded people.
I brings up a question. I want to ask Kent this. Did you happen to go out when you were over in SWAT? We went out and protected the KKK guys down there off of MLK. They decided to protest a bunch of gun activists down there, and we were being told they had KKK ties, and then the Huey P. Gun guys came out, and we're all out there, and they're turning to us, and we're telling them, hey, this isn't something we agree with, but we still have to protect them. And it got to a point where we were so outnumbered, command just said, nope, you're on your own. We're out of here. And pulled the whole operation, pulled SWAT, pulled all of us, pulled everybody.
Yeah, we always got stuck so far away from that stuff. We
all were the break glass in case of an emergency.
Yeah, it was always, hey, be there, but don't be there. Be further away. So we never got to see any of that, actual conflict.
We were up there, and they just said, nope. We are fully outnumbered, and we're not going to be. It's just one of those things that you're out there to protect people that you have zero agreement with
or respect for.
Yes,
I'm always, everybody follows their social medias. I'm always posting old historical photos from police and fire around from mainly DPD. I stick to local, and I found a bunch of photos from the '60s of Dallas police standing guard for the KKK. Here in Dallas. So, and that we do have to, we're in positions, unique positions that other people wouldn't want to be in, nor would they know how to handle.
Well, and it's interesting because we're in SRG, the Special Response Group, so we go out to all these protests, and a lot of times we're met with, people thinking that we're out there just to control them. I'm like, actually, we're out here to protect you from counter protesters, and we're here to protect the counter protesters from you guys. We're just out there to keep the peace. We're not out there to necessarily do anything except for to prevent disturbances and injury. And it's always funny because people get, they say really mean stuff.
Yeah, they say a lot of stuff to us when we're out there.
And it's like we're out here just to kind of make sure things go okay for you guys, to let you practice your freedom of speech. We're not out here to do anything else.
Well, and that's one thing I've heard many times, and you probably have as well, people say like, well, you're lucky you're in that uniform. That people treat us a certain way. People treat police a lot like people act online. They hide behind, people will say anything. People will say anything online to somebody, but when they're face to face with somebody, they will not say the same thing. Because you go down to certain parts of Dallas, and you say some of the things that you're saying to people online, or you say to a cop's face. You go down to certain parts, you probably won't make it out of that place.
Well, anybody with morals and virtue, would you say it to them, they will pull their card. It brings up a little funny, little thing. During the 2020 riots, that first night, we're walking down the street on horseback, and I had a group of young, looked to be North Dallas kids, came up to us and started screaming things. And one of them said he was going to, they're getting ready to leave, and they were going to go to my house and have their way with my wife. And I said, well, you don't have to go far. She's about 3 blocks down.
Right.
They go, she's in uniform. You can find her down there.
Yeah.
They just they were taken aback, but
they didn't know what to say.
Yeah, no.
You got to have some level of fun with this job, but because they wanted you to get pissed off. That's who would say? Look, who would say that to somebody that wasn't in uniform?
That's valid. I never really thought about it being like people trolling online, but it kind of is.
With a gun. Right?
I'm
literally sitting right here with a gun. You want to talk crazy to me? And then you're going to say you're afraid of me? Yeah,
but I will say it did change a lot of how we handle protests now.
Oh, yeah.
We used to be standing right there next to the protesters the entire time. And that's changed. Now we take a little bit more of a few blocks away approach to kind of, not really
protect yourself,
entice things.
But you can't do much when you're stuck in the middle of it. Right? You can't move a crowd from inside of it. You got to be on one side or the other.
I actually found a picture of myself on Instagram during a Trump protest.
Oh,
or
really?
like an Antifa one, yeah.
Yeah, wow. This day and age, it's hard to work anywhere and not be in front of a camera. And
exactly.
And it really is like somebody trolling you online.
But it was interesting because as I've been getting my degree in criminal justice, I've had to write papers on different things, and that topic comes up, every once in a while. And, in this picture, I'm like 5 feet away from a guy who's wearing, Antifa mask or ski mask or whatever. And it's funny to me to think about how we used to just be right up alongside these protesters, and now how we handle things ever since then.
Yeah, we learn a lot in this job when we evolve. We have to.
Because honestly, we were just getting trash talked the entire time that we're standing out there. And it was just, it was for no reason.
Well, I tell people to say, well, you're lucky you have that badge and gun. And, say, no, some of the things you're saying and some of the behaviors you're doing, you're lucky that I have this on. Really. Go do that.
It's the badge that's saving your life right now.
I want to get into you seem like you've always had a love for community outreach, and especially with children. You have a story about some kids that you try to help. Can you kind of tell the listener about that, how that came to be?
I'm going to try and not make it last forever. So when I was in Pell, a friend of mine from high school, she reached out to me and she asked me if I could help this family that had just moved to Dallas. The mom had just gotten out of an abusive relationship. They got, some kind of government housing that was put them in Dallas. The mom had 6 kids and she needed help, just getting the kids registered for school, getting back to school supplies, things like that. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I can help with that. So I go out, I meet the mom, meet the kids, and, I kind of tell her what I was there for and who I was. And I take the mom and like a couple kids at a time, because there's so many of them. over to the schools. I got them all registered for school, found some resources to get them school supplies. I think I even got a couple of the girls' hair, braided at different back to school events. Anyways, I got all this done. And then I just, was like, hey, nice to meet you. Good luck in the school year, and I left. The friend of mine that reached out to me, she asked me, we had started kind of a group chat at this point, me and another woman and her. And the other woman, she had taken the oldest daughter and the youngest daughter from this woman, and she was like in the process of adopting them. And then my friend, she said that she was going to adopt one of the girls as well, and she asked me to take her over Thanksgiving break. For some reason, she was looking at adopting her in like January, and so she asked me to take her over Thanksgiving break. I guess like all the other kids had somewhere to go during that time, and that was the only kid that was left. So I was like, yeah, sure. It wasn't a big deal. With me being in youth outreach at the time, it was a little bit easy to kind of take her to things. And plus, with it being a holiday week, I think I had a lot of it off anyway. So the first day I went and picked her up, and I took her out to lunch, and she'd, give her crayons or whatever. And she dropped one of them, and she goes, I dropped the purple one. And I pick it up, and I was like, what color is this? And she was like, red. And then I was like, it's blue, or whatever color it was. Like she had said two of the wrong colors. And I give it to her. So then I start in this group chat, and I was like, hey, she's acting like she doesn't know her colors. Because this girl is 6 years old. And she has a speech impediment as far as like, you kind of have to be around her a while to understand exactly what she's saying. And they were like, she probably doesn't know her colors, which to me was just wild. After the Thanksgiving break, I took her back home, and my friend reached out to me saying, hey, she's inconsolable. Can you just kind of like take care of her until I can adopt her in January? And I don't know what pushed me to do it, but I was like, yeah, I care about this girl, whatever. So I went and picked her up. And when I went to pick her up, one of the other, basically there was 5 girls and a boy. The boy was 2, so he couldn't talk yet or anything. And at this point, the mom has 4 kids left, 3 girls and a boy. So I go to pick up the 6-year-old, and the 11-year-old is like, hey, can I come too? And I'm like, sure, why not? But I told the mom, I said, hey, these are not my kids. I don't have any legal rights over them. I can't switch their schools. So you're going to have to take care of them after school until I get off work. And then I'll take them home, get them ready for bed and feed them and take them to school the next morning. And so we had this agreement. It was fine. So I take the second daughter. We go home. We go to school the next day. And then when I get there to pick up the 2 girls, then the 3rd girl wanted to come. And the mom basically was like, well, she can go stay with you, but like the mom wanted to keep her and the boy. And she was looking to adopt out the other 2 that I was watching. So occasionally during this agreement, she would make the daughter she wanted to keep stay at home. Because she used her to clean, she used her to babysit other people's kids. For money, I guess. I honestly don't really know. So this went on for a few months. I was drowning. I was completely in over my head. My mom had 3 kids by that age. I was 25 at the time. So I thought I could do it. It was a completely different experience though. One, I was going from 0 to 3, and then I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I was starting to get in debt just trying to buy basic groceries. The choir was amazing. They actually helped me find, people who donated food to us. I wasn't a foster parent, so I didn't get any help from the state or anything like that. Like I had no financial resource. Plus I was doing it all by myself. I was drowning in laundry. They kept getting sick. probably, maybe because I was changing their diet as they were coming to live with me because I couldn't afford the stuff they were used to, like, just chips and all that stuff. We started eating, like, home cooked meals. Yeah. I don't know if that's what made them sick or not, but we got lice like 3 times. I remember having Lieutenant Stratman looking through my hair to see if I had it too. I got to work and I was like, hey, and she was super sweet, so I thought she'd be cool with it. I think she was so grossed out.
She probably wanted to douse you in essential oils.
She did not want to be anywhere next to me. She was super sweet about it, and she
Kim
did.
Is so she's at her and Todd are actually coming on the show next year.
She got a couple pins and kind of like picked through my hair a little bit. I ended up just calling my mom and being like, "Well, we dealt with this when we were kids, when I was kids, so I need you to come delouse me again." Anyway, so this goes on for a few months. Even around Christmas time, I had a few people in the department reach out and actually help us buy gifts. I had a lot of generosity and I had a lot of support around me. But around Christmas time, the 11-year-old, she ended up coming up to me and she had grown super attached to me. And I made a promise to these girls that I would protect them. They've been through very severe abuse with their dad. And, as a police officer, they believed me. And I loved them. I fell in love with these girls. I wanted to adopt them. And I was just trying to figure out how to make that happen at the time. But I was dealing with 2 of the girls, the one who didn't know her colors and the 11-year-old. They had a lot of learning difficulties. And as I started going through foster classes, I actually learned that when kids go through severe abuse between the ages of 0 and 3, that's when your brain develops to learn. And if you go through a lot of stress, your brain actually just develops to cope, to keep you alive. So a lot of times kids who have gone through a lot of stress, they actually act half their age pretty much. So the 6-year-old, she acted like a 3-year-old. The 11-year-old, she acted about like a 6-year-old. So I was dealing with constant tantrums and, fighting on the picky food, like everything. Everything was, I was changing things for them, so it was difficult. Anyways, around Christmas, the 11-year-old, she came up to me and, she started to tell me other things that their dad had done. She brought up the sexual abuse. And so that's when we actually got CPS involved. So I let the other 2 ladies know in the group chat because at this point, I still think that my friend is, going to adopt some of these kids. And then the other lady is already in the process of adopting. And so I let them know what's going on. So we go up to CPS, we take all the kids, they interview them. Their dad ends up getting 3 warrants for, like continuous sexual assault of kids. And he ended up getting put in jail. The mom had...
She was complicit in it.
Yeah, she had some to it. So she ended up also going to jail. So at this point, CPS actually removed the boy from her as well. At this point, I hadn't been taking the boy. I'd only been taking the girls. So at this point, CPS removed all the kids from her, and they actually put them in my care. So this is when I started going through the foster classes and was actually trying to get help. Because at this point, I'm like, okay, we're doing this for real.
You were already drowning anyway, then you took on more responsibility.
Right. And actually, the little boy was easy at the time because I would get him ready last in the morning, just throw on a new diaper and clothes and take him to daycare. And he could stay at daycare the entire time I was at work. The girls were more difficult because they got out of school before I got off work. And
what did you learn about yourself going through this? Looking back, you have the luxury of looking back and like, damn. I did that, but at the time, I'm sure you were trying to keep your head above water. But what do you think you learned the most about yourself?
That I am not my mother. She's amazing. No, I think sometimes I let my heart win in decisions that sometimes I probably should think about more with my head. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think I could change that, and I don't think I would.
And she's married to me.
And she's married. You got to take care of you now.
You really love taking on those projects, huh?
Yeah.
I love a good project.
Taking any stray. So.
There you go.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I guess, you could tie that back into service. Like, I just, when I see somebody in need or I see somebody who is going through something, like I want to help. I want people to be happy and healthy and just good.
And that says a lot about your character. I mean, it really, truly does. I mean, and we hadn't even wrapped up the story, which I'm about to, but it says a lot about you just taking on more, and in some ways to your own detriment, what you're carrying and what you carried at that moment, because that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with for somebody, especially with somebody that doesn't have kids. And you always had the specter that these are not my kids, right? You're not officially their, legally their parent. That was always there.
Right. And, since I was a kid, that is the one thing that I did know I wanted to do. I wanted to be a mom one day. That I never knew what career I wanted, but I knew I wanted to be a mom. And so when it landed in my lap and I hadn't previously had the opportunity, and to me, I feel like God puts me in situations at times for some sort of good. Everywhere that I'm led, I feel like I'm led there.
You were there for two reasons. You were there to help those kids. They were in a bad situation, but also, and even though it was very hard and difficult on you, you were helping yourself and doing something that you wanted to do, as be a parent.
Yeah. And I guess going further into it, what ended up happening is we make it through Christmas, and I'm going through these fostering classes, and as we're getting into, I want to say it was like March. I mean, I was completely drowning, and my family, even though they love the girls too, they were like, you don't have to do this. Like, there are people who have already kind of signed up for this. There's people out there who want to be foster parents, who want to be adoptive parents. And I'm not saying I didn't want to be those things. It just wasn't that time in my life for it. So I ended up talking to the other two ladies, and I said, I feel like they need to be in a 2-parent home. I was working, an hour every night with the 6-year-old, just trying to teach her colors. And on top of that, she didn't know shapes, numbers, letters. There was so much that I just felt like I couldn't give them, that I felt like they needed. I mean, I was really just surviving at this point.
Can you talk about the night CPS placed the kids?
Yeah, so I told the other two ladies, I was like, I feel like they need to go, into foster care, because they need somebody who's getting this financial assistance. They need 2 parents, etc. And they agreed with me, and they felt like I was doing what was good for everybody. So I contacted CPS. I told them, the predicament, and I was like, hey, like, I just feel like they really need this. I feel like I'm not doing enough in these, formative years where they're learning. So I took them to CPS the next day. I mean, CPS treated me like I just didn't want them anymore. Like I was just giving away my kids. And I mean, honestly, they treated me horrible. They pretty much just like grabbed the girl's stuff out of my hands and like sent me out the door. Like I barely got to tell them goodbye. And the night before I made that decision, like I bought a 6-pack on the way home, and I sat down on the bed with the girls, and like I couldn't face myself. And we just all cried and sat on the bed while I told them, what was going to happen and why I made the decision, and that I love them. And anyway, so the next day at CPS, I get treated like that when I already felt pretty horrible. And I know it was for the betterment of the girls at the time, but CPS didn't let me see them for months. But the other two ladies who I was involved in this group conversation with, they would send me pictures from the sibling visits, and which honestly made it worse. And that's honestly when my drinking got really bad.
You were drinking to cope and numb at that point.
Yeah, and the thing was, I'm not even going to lie and say that my drinking wasn't always slightly out of hand. Because when I was doing it for, like fun and socially, like I still went way too far. But this was the first time that I was using it to literally just not feel anything.
which is extremely common, especially with this profession of what we deal with. And then you're in this loss. I mean, because yes, they were not your kids, but you had a connection. You loved them, you cared for them, and then they were taken away like that, and it did take away a piece of you.
Right, but the thing is, because they weren't taken away, and I made this decision, like, I just felt all the guilt. I felt like I had lied to them. I told them I was going to adopt them. I told them I loved them. I told them I was going to protect them. Like, I made all these promises and I didn't keep them. I felt like I wasn't worthy of being a mother. I couldn't live with myself. I couldn't live with the guilt, with the shame, because a lot of people had come to know me having these kids, and when they start asking about it, and I had to be like, oh well, I sent them to foster care.
And there's a lot of different ways to look at something like this, and you may not look at it this way, but try to think about the interactions and the kids were a part of your life for a moment of your life and a moment in time. And you were right, and you did great things during that moment in time in those kids' lives. After all they've gone through, they were placed with you for a reason, and you did it for as long as you could and as well as you could. And for that moment, it was the right thing.
Right, and it's easy to rationally think that.
Right.
I started therapy a little bit here and there through the DPA's free therapy sessions that they do. Up until then, honestly, I didn't trust it like everybody else.
Yeah.
And so
I get a lot of that.
I didn't look into it, but I was like, I'm drowning, so I need something. So I kind of tried it here and there. But I would only reach out to the therapist whenever I was like really low.
You're in a crisis.
Yeah, and by the time that I could get seen, it was a couple weeks later, I'm doing all right at this point because I kind of picked myself back up. But I was just going through this cycle where I was calling off work. Like, I was just taking days off because I was still in PAL at this point. So, I could take days off without, worrying about manpower and stuff like that. So I was taking days off, and I was just drinking until I fell asleep. Like, all I wanted to do was be asleep. It was the closest, like, how I equated it was I couldn't kill myself. I couldn't do that to my family. But that was the closest I could get to feeling like I was dead, I guess.
In some ways, you were dead. I mean, I have talked to people that they wouldn't have been unhappy if they just didn't wake up from sleeping. They didn't want to kill themselves, but they would have been okay with not just waking up after they went to sleep.
Yeah. And I mean, I mean, that's kind of where I was at. And so, obviously, I recognized this is a problem. So then I just started throwing myself into work. I started working extra jobs and like just keeping myself at home or, out of my house and in uniform and sober. And it was basically doing the same thing. It was just more productive, I guess.
Just a different way to occupy your mind.
Yeah.
And speaking of extra jobs, you're working to stay sober because you're working these extra jobs. You have to be sober.
Right.
You met Silver.
Right.
And y'all started talking. Talk about that.
So we started working this job on the freeway. Basically, we were working overnight. So we were working until 5 in the morning, 6, something like that. Basically just making it safe for the construction workers overnight as they're working on the freeway on 635. So I see Silver the first time, and looking at him, I was like, oh, he's a handsome dude, whatever. And then
that's what I thought too.
I know. I'm sitting across from him looking at him. Can't stop.
Well, so we had this paperwork that we had to fill out to put, our name and hours and everything. So as I'm taking it from car to car, I get to Silver's car, and at this point we hadn't spoken to each other. And I give him the paperwork to fill out, and he goes, "Hey, do you
Hold
know
on,
how,
you're going to give some other context, or you're just going to throw that one out there?"
I am just letting them know how the conversation started. So
Okay,
anyways.
from your perspective. Okay, I'll deal with that.
So I walk up, I give him the paperwork, and he goes, "Hey, do you know how to use this Bumble app?" And I was like, yeah, it's kind of like Tinder, but the girl.
I had a cousin trying to talk me into using it, so that's my disclaimer.
can-
Yeah, sure.
I got talked.
You
to
can
these
defend
too by
yourself in a
Randy.
moment. So I tell him, yeah, it's kind of like Tinder, but the girl has to like reach out to you first. I haven't really used it, but that's what I hear.
Another
And-
disclaimer: I never ended up getting an account. Just
Okay.
yeah.
So, and I told him, you know, I was trying to lift his spirits or whatever. And I was like, but you're a good looking guy. You'd be fine. And it was just a genuine compliment.
He's like, well, tell me more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that sounds like the rat and the cheese. That's it. I was caught.
Yeah, she got
So-
you.
You know, I walk off to the next car to give them the paperwork, etc. And the thing is, we're working that job late at night. There's nobody else to talk to. So we're on a group chat for this job. And so we have each other's phone number, and we end up, you know, talking throughout the night. And he's sharing old memes with me.
New to me. I was.
Yeah, like you discovered fire.
Yes, pretty much like, ooh, look at this.
I
I thought I was being funny.
I tried to entertain it for like the first hour, and I was like, ha 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 ha.
Like I've
You
seen
know,
this like 10 times.
Yeah,
It
well,
was by the end of the night, that's what she was like. This has like been 3 years old.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's new to me.
So, anyways, so as we keep working this job, because I think we worked it for several months, and you know, we just kind of start,
Bonding.
you know, bonding with each
Right.
other. And he asked me out a few times, and I just honestly, with everything I was going through, I really was just not ready. And so I pushed him off a few times, and then finally we went on a date, and it ended up being really fun, and we had a really good time. And then as I got to know him more and saw like what kind of a father he was, and started talking to people at work and finding out that honestly everybody likes him. Nobody had anything negative to say, so we started dating.
Be honest, it was really those fire memes that he was.
Yeah.
It was
firing
it
at
was
you.
it was the very
The
old
meme game
memes.
got you.
Yeah, yeah.
Trapped.
He's gotten better.
He's gotten better. He get better stuff.
Yeah.
Have you seen these memes?
He's moved on to reels now. He's in reels.
Yeah, TikToks.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So the early stressors that y'all kind of went through with dating, can y'all talk? Both of y'all talk about that?
At the time, I was still seeing the kids, actually. So by this time, I had started seeing them again.
We were seeing them.
Yeah, and Silver was actively, like, being a part of that. I think he could see what it was doing to me, though, because it would put me in a pretty bad funk after every time I would see them. And so I think I kind of made the decision to stop seeing them at some point.
It wasn't best for you, and honestly, and in some ways, it may not have been
Yeah.
good for
Well,
them.
we had several conversations about it, and I mean, it was.
It's hard.
It wasn't just about her. It was also what is it doing to the girls, because they're expecting. And every time we would see them, they would talk about, well, when do we get to come back?
Oh,
and
man.
it was tough because I didn't want or we didn't want it to. We just didn't want to lie to them.
Yeah.
So I was on the actual, the dating scene, getting started back into it, where my life had changed, and I had actually stopped drinking for about a year, and I gave up a lot. I stopped drinking, stopped chewing tobacco, which was pretty much a given. If you're in the mounted unit, you're gonna chew or dip. But
Especially working around Del Ball. Shep.
oh yeah, all those guys, yeah. Troy.
Oh, my
Smith,
God. Yeah.
But so I guess being around her and seeing what the drinking was doing, I really wasn't sure how to handle a lot of that. For the first few months of our relationship, I kept my promise to myself. I had lost some weight, gotten in shape, new life, new me. But I felt that I couldn't go where she was going, and I didn't know how else to travel that path with her.
Did
to
you
some
notice
degree.
the drinking?
Not at first. I thought it was just, okay, this
Socially.
party girl. But as we started hanging out more, I, come over the next day after, hey, I'm just going to stay at home tonight. Okay, I'll come over the next day, and there's bottles everywhere. And then it it started becoming evident, and the topics and the questions started coming out, and the conversation started being had. And I mean, I even remember the night that I had my first drink again, and then we went into it. But she had, I guess, bouts of, I'll call it just bouts of clarity, where one night in particular, she came to me a very sincere way that she really didn't want to drink anymore. And I promised her that night that I'd do whatever I could to I don't want to say to end it, but I mean just to stop it, to help her stop. And I mean, and that led to a lot of fights, a lot of disagreements, where nights where, hey, we had our code word. If you see me drinking too much, use a code word. Well,
I hated that word.
Yeah. So then, hey, let's get out of the situation, or let's leave the bar, or let's leave the party, or let's leave wherever we are drinking. And then it got to, well, I don't want to leave. I'm like, well, but you told me this is what we want to do. Well, I don't care what I told you. And
right.
it led to other things that were counterproductive to just everything. And
were y'all married? Y'all weren't married at this point.
No,
right?
we were just dating. And when she started seeing a therapist, the DPA therapist, it led to a point where, I mean, when I would see her, I mean, I know she says I have a sixth sense to it. Just by listening to her voice, I knew if she had anything to drink, and if I felt that there was a need for we were on the precipice of a bender or some binge drinking, I'd let my supervisor know, hey, I was just a corporal at the time. Yeah, hey, I'm going to take a few days off. And there are times I drove home to wake her up and say, all right, pick a direction. And we would literally, she'd say, north. And we would take off for a few days with no plan, with no, I mean, sometimes not even clothes. We bought wherever we went. And we would go and find a hotel room, and we'd do whatever we needed to do to I don't want to say flush out the bender, but get it out of her system. And we did that for a few months, and led into a year or so, and to a point where it we ended up getting married. I mean, I guess a little bit after that.
Yeah, you got married. You got married in 2020, right?
Yes, we were.
COVID ruined a little part of that.
Well, it ruined, and it saved us money.
Okay, yeah.
Because we actually our wedding was what 4/4/2020. 4/4/2020. No puns there. But we were actually we had a destination wedding planned down in Corpus, and we were on the beach for spring break that year when COVID hit, and we had to pack up our tent and the kids and everything and head back to Dallas because the fear of being stuck wherever you were.
Yeah.
And our wedding was like the next weekend.
Yeah, we were actually down there during spring break
weeks.
to finalize all the payments on everything. And while we were down there, we found out about COVID. One of our daughter's friend was living with us, and she nannied for the guy who first got it in Frisco. So we didn't know if they had COVID, and then, it was so new, we didn't know anything about it. So we hurried up, we got back home, and we're kind of just trying to figure out, hey, are we having this wedding?
The department told us to stay home for 2 weeks, so we weren't
complaining.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's just...
There was giving away days back then.
No one knew.
Yeah, of course.
Nobody knew how serious it was, or if it was serious.
And the drinking at that point, where was that as far as?
I would go through bouts where I could go days without it. I'd wait until the weekend and have kind of a normal amount. I don't know what normal is anymore, but it was kind of social. We would drink, with our neighbors. We'd come over, barbecue, cook on the weekends, whatever. I could kind of do it more appropriately, I guess. And then I would have times where I'd get really low and slip into a bender for a couple days.
And neither to numb yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times he would end up taking off because the withdrawals were so bad.
I saw it as a snowball. I mean, just progressively over those few years, I guess being home with COVID, and then the whole call 7-Eleven instead of having to drive to get alcohol. You just call somebody and they deliver it to you.
Yeah, after COVID, you could just get it.
Deliver it, and that just, it opened up even more where
The accessibility was
most definitely, and then it just, I mean, it snowballed into a point where the I only drink on the weekends turned into drinking heavily every few nights to I'm not sure if she was drinking or not drinking when we got home.
There's so many people hold stuff together so well on with other people's perception of somebody, and some close people may notice some cracks in the dam, but for the most part, people show you what they want to show you the best they can to keep things from you. At one point, did you think about reaching out to the wellness unit?
I mean, I was having problems long before the wellness unit existed. I had been thinking about it for a while at the point that I finally did. I just didn't think that I'm not going to lie. I feel like I run a lot of the household. Like, I'm kind of the one who pays attention to our finances and paying the bills. And
Kristen's the same in ours. I admit, yeah.
And I'm not saying that Silver wouldn't do it. It's just I'm the one who has all the logins. I'm the one who pays attention to it because I don't know, I'm a nerd. I like math. But
that is nerdy, math.
It is. But so I didn't feel like I could be gone that long to go to rehab. But it got to a point where I was like, if I can't get sober for more than a week, like, it's not going to happen. I mean, and ultimately I was fighting it by myself in a sense. Like, I was fighting a losing battle. Like, I couldn't just stop. I tried. If I had $1 for every time I tried to quit drinking in the last decade.
Well, the thing is, and I just turned into a big resentment at times.
Yeah, I mean,
if I tried to offer any suggestions or step in anywhere.
The thing is, I was having to hide it everywhere, and he was catching me daily, and it was just driving me insane because I was having to come up with better ways to hide it. And I could have half a beer, and he would be able to tell in my voice, and it would just irritate the crap out of me.
Well, the thing is, I had to give up all mine.
I mean, I would take a 12-pack of, like those seltzer things and hide them all throughout the house and end up having to drink them hot because I had to hide them. Like, it was a bad problem.
It was a problem. Then let me ask you this. Were you aware of what the department had policy-wise at that point?
Yeah, I knew that they were offering the rehab program.
Did you trust it at that point, though?
Yeah, I did. Honestly, because I had gone to rehab back in 2019, but at the time, I was not ready to make that commitment. And
I will offer up, though, that the department really helped out. There were some really,
they didn't give me the days, but they made sure to use everything that they could to figure out how to get me to go.
Right. I knew the right people to talk to,
of course.
And it really, they paved the way for it to for her to go back in 2019, and it just it was good at that time.
A lot of people don't know the right people to talk to back then.
Yeah, the thing is, there are ways that things are written in general orders as far as like your time cards and how you can use holidays early and things like that. Like, there's stuff in there for that for people who are going through whatever. At the time, it just worked for this. So I had gone back in 2019, so I had already been away. They had to give me my phone like once a week so I could pay bills and stuff. And like, it already felt like a lot then. But at this point, as I'm getting older, the hangovers, the withdrawal, like, it was so much worse. And I just felt like I was spiraling, and I didn't know what else to do. And I legitimately tried being sober more than a week, and I couldn't do it.
She would argue with the hangovers in regards to just to let me hair the dog.
Yeah.
Just give me enough to make this go away, but it turned into just one beer sometimes, and whoa, it's like right back to to the way she was when she fell asleep.
Just couldn't control it,
No.
basically.
Yeah. So it finally got to the point where I just told Silver, I mean, like, I had given him my credit cards, debit cards. I gave him my driver's license. Like, I was trying to take away all of my means to be able to buy it. But then I just got my passport out, used Apple Pay.
I was going to say the Apple Pay, the Apple Wallet
Like,
was a killer.
Like, I don't, it seems so weak to me to say this out loud. Oh, I just couldn't do it. But I really just could not stop myself.
And reaching out to I was a recipient of a phone call.
Yeah, and at that time, I feel like I had talked to you a little bit, not about that, but I feel like we had already had somewhat of a relationship.
I had reached out and planted nuggets and trying to, and also I wanted you to be involved with what we were doing in the wellness unit as far as reaching out to people. Yeah,
and so I ended up telling Silver, I was like, I feel like I need to do this again, and I was like, I'm at the point where I want to do it, and I need to get away to do it. And so I felt like he was going to be, I guess, disappointed or stressed out, and he wasn't. He was completely supportive and like, okay, yeah, let's do it.
At that time, she didn't know that I had already been talking to Joe about this, about you going. That's where Joe had been, I guess, all those times that in passing and those conversations.
You ask a lot of questions about how the policy worked, and you wanted everybody's worried that somebody's career is going to get derailed over something like this, and there was a time that it would. Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, you guys buried at some unfortunate spot that nobody wants to go to and be at. You're not going to promote, and hopefully we never go back to that. This apartment right now, we do things how we do these things. But it was really hard for me. I got to say that it was really hard for me to. This is a tough job. This is a weird job to be a cop in this unit, and it's very weird to approach people with stuff like this, because really historically we all kind of like, how many times have we seen somebody get arrested in the department for DWI?
I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's a lot,
honestly.
but there's people somewhere that go, I saw that coming,
Yeah.
and there's always people that always see it. They see the behavior, and nobody feels it's their place to say something.
Well,
it's awkward.
Some of that could be ego problem.
Yeah.
And I'll just be honest, like a lot of officers, we do have an ego problem. We don't think that we're wrong, and I will say, being married to another police officer, like, we have to check our egos occasionally, because when you get out on these calls, you're used to, I have to control the situation. I have to, make it go my way. And that's just, for safety and making the call work. Well, when you get into a marriage with two police officers, you really got to check that.
Yeah, I get that every day. I get checked every day I go home.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, yeah, I know. When you reached out, I'm gonna give my version of what I was doing. I was actually, it was early. I mean, I had a 7:15 appointment to go to get a root canal done. I was literally on the way, and it was raining the day. It was terrible weather. Mm-hmm. I was driving to the dentist, and all of a sudden, I see your name on the phone so early, and I went, "Oh no, what's happening?" And you're like, I'm ready. I think that I'm ready. I need to do something. I need help.
Yeah. I actually had Silver drive me to work that morning. And on the way to work, I was like, yeah, I feel like we need to do this.
I had no idea who she was talking to. She just goes,
yeah, you told me that later. Yeah.
She goes, we're literally southbound on the tollway, which is not a direction we usually go. And she said, hey, I'm going to rehab. I just talked to Joe. And I almost wrecked the car. Like, what? You serious? She's like, yeah. So I turned around and went straight home. Kind of already knew the routine. That it was time for us to pack a bag, and then I guess we talked later.
Yeah. So I get that. What when you made that decision to reach out to me? I mean, what was it? I mean, what made you just say, I've got to do this right now?
Because I was finally at a place where I wanted to be sober, and I mean, to be honest with you, you have to be at that place. Like, you have to be fed up with it. But I knew I couldn't stop myself. And that's where I got to.
I remember telling you, okay, I need a picture of, I need 2 different pictures of identification, and I need like a picture of a card, and I'm going to start making phone calls, but I am going to be out of pocket for an hour while I'm getting this root canal done. And I did all I could before I walked into the dentist's office. I sat there, and I have to say, that was a long-ass hour for me. But we have done this so many times in helping people. This is one thing that we actually have done pretty well. And Stonegate, we have such a good relationship with them. They actually hired somebody to deal with DPD, which is great because it made the process. I was able to start rolling that snowball initially so quickly. I sat there and got a root canal done, and I was able to, by the time I got out of that chair in a little over an hour, I was able to already have a lot done that I needed to get done to start the process.
On my end, having been through both of them, they were exceptional in regards to how easy it was to get the medical stuff done and get all that done, all the questions.
It is a process.
And then something that we didn't have the first time was actually somebody who talked to me, to talk to the spouse or talk to the other person.
Stonegate has like a family liaison that reaches out every week and kind of gives them updates on how things going, whether or not they're working their steps and
how to be supportive. This also, Stonegate was a lot more detached. What was it? You couldn't talk, but like for the first 2 weeks, we didn't.
Yeah.
9 days of blackout, I believe.
Yeah, 9 days of blackout, yeah.
I originally went to La Hacienda, and it...
I mean, I visited
honestly,
you every weekend, but...
Me and another girl at Stonegate, she was at La Ha when I was. And, we came like right after each other. We were joking about it being kind of like a summer camp vibe.
Yeah.
But anyways, with La Ha, after you got out of detox, which they put you in detox even if you're sober when you get in there, just to make sure medically that you're good. And whenever you get out of detox, you buy calling cards, and you can call every single night. You have like an hour you're allowed to talk, or I think an hour during lunch, hour during the night. So we could talk to each other every single day. And all I did was call him every night crying, saying, come get me.
And La Ha's a 5-hour drive.
Yeah.
Yes. At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite far.
Mm-hmm.
How was that for you, Silver?
Huh?
How was that for you, hearing her every night wanting to come home? And
at first, it was a bit tearing, but after the first weekend visiting, it put more in perspective. I wasn't sure how to take the whole process, mainly because she wasn't ready, and there was a lot of negativity coming from her in regards of, don't you dare buy into this program, don't you dare do this. And I didn't know, I just, not knowing the 12 steps, not knowing that stuff, and doing a lot of research to try to understand. Heck, there was what was that? The family day or the family time?
There was like a weekend at the end where your family got to come, and like they kind of get therapy too. It's like couples counseling. Yeah. It's like a mixture of things, and depending on the age of the person, what relationships they're surrounded by at home, like that's who comes.
She first told me, nah, I don't want you to come. I was like, nah, I'm already invested. I want to see what this is all about. And then she accepted that, and we worked through it pretty well because she wasn't sure how I would take the whole program. But I mean, I do feel bad for some of the other families. I mean, we watched one couple. They flat out stood up from one of the little exercises.
She got upset with the therapist because her husband, that was like his 13th rehab or something. Or I mean, it was into the double digits. And the therapist was basically like, how much longer are you going to put up with this?
Y'all should just get divorced. And she
just got up and they left.
And I'm watching that happen. I'm like, well, what are they going to tell us?
Yeah,
we're not even married. And then I was just like, it was a little off-putting, but I mean, we worked through that exercise, and I mean, overall, I walked out of there not sure. I think we went to the coast right the day I picked you up.
Yeah, so
Took her to the beach.
I was going through, a bender basically, and Silver came home and grabbed me and was going to take me to the beach. Well, I had texted Dottie and said, hey, can I get a therapy appointment? And she somehow managed to fit me in that day. So I was like, hey, we got to go by Dottie's first for my therapy real quick, and then we can go to the coast. And as I'm sitting there with Dottie, like, I was not sober. And so I was completely honest with her. I was like, I don't see the point in life. Like, I just don't get it. I think it's stupid. And
I get a phone call.
I feel like I'm wasting my time.
Come in here right now.
I was like, I feel like I'm running around in circles. I do the same thing every day. Like, this is stupid.
It's got to be exhausting too. Living that way, having to hide things from Silver, and then Silver always on guard and watching closer than he normally would be or should be, right? And that's got to be really extremely hard.
Yeah, and I don't know. I was unhappy with just a lot of things, like work-wise, and I wasn't in it. And so whenever she heard those things coming out of my mouth, because I told her, I was like, I don't want to kill myself. Like, I did not want to get APOD or anything.
But you didn't want to be here.
But I didn't, I was just like, I don't get the point. I think it's whatever. So that's when she recommended that I go to Laha. So it was before I was ready to make that commitment.
Right.
And so that's how I ended up there the first time. And anyways, the therapy was pretty decent down there. It was not bad. And I think some people do well. The thing I liked about Stonegate is it was a lot more faith-based, which was easier for me to get on board with. They also do AA, but to me, it's not my favorite. It's a little culty to me. And so it's hard for me to get on board with that as much as it was a lot easier for me to get on board faith-based.
Right.
Because I grew up Christian, and it was a lot easier to feel like God was calling me into a place than it was for me to be like, I'm trying to think of even what the AA stuff is right now. The way they chant things and say things repetitively. Like,
it's just not for you.
It just wasn't for me. And I was like, I haven't even read the Bible. Like, I cannot be quoting this AA book. Like, it just felt blasphemous to me. Anyway, so it was just, and Stonegate kept the males and females separated. So it just was, you could really be vulnerable. And so it was a lot easier to talk about things.
Well, I toured both facilities at Stonegate, the males, and you're the first female that we've had go into Stonegate or anywhere since we've had this policy in place. And the female accommodations are way nicer than the guys, and the guys aren't bad, but the females are up on a hill, and it's a lot nicer. I'll tell you that. So you probably haven't seen the males. Well,
they took us down there for like equine therapy or something once a week, and so we kind of like could see it, but like we didn't integrate.
Right.
Like they don't have any integration because there's honestly no need for it.
They got a nice gym in there. You'll have one overlooking.
We have a little bit of a gym.
Yeah.
It's like a couple treadmills.
Right.
I don't know.
The guys though, they have a full. Yeah, it's a lot. Dre talked about that's how he went in and take a lot of energy out.
Yeah, I mean the house it was done pretty nice. Our like leisurely activity we had was like we had a swimming pool, but it was cold when I first went. We weren't allowed in it. And then inside we had like crafts and games. Whereas the guys, they have like a bunch of games down there. They got like cornhole, horseshoes. I don't even know what all they have. I think there's a volleyball court. They had like a bunch of area where they could go. Like we were pretty trapped right around the house up there on Hilltop because there's just brush. So you really can just like rock in circles around the driveway, and that's pretty much it.
What did you get most from Stonegate?
Something that I think was huge and actually keeping me sober after the fact was the EMDR therapy.
Okay, explain that.
So I had tried EMDR therapy with a couple therapists before this point, and it just really didn't take or work. And I think with one therapist, she was trying to dig into my childhood, and I didn't really feel like my childhood was traumatic, or like I never felt unsafe or unloved in my childhood, even though it was kind of chaotic. So I feel like she was digging in the wrong place. Anyway, so when I got to Stonegate, and you see a therapist once a week, And she, she goes, hey, we're going to do this EMDR therapy. And I go, well, we can try it, but it hasn't worked in the past. Well, it ended up working. And potentially that's because we actually dove into I don't know if I should call it PTSD, but the PTSD of having the girls going into foster care and all that. Like, that's what we focused on. And so at this time it worked.
Something happened while you were in there that had to help on.
Yeah, my mother had actually had a heart attack. She was visiting family up in Oklahoma, Lawton, Oklahoma, while she was in the hospital. Or actually not a heart attack, she had a stroke. And we were kind of in the dark there at first. And I remember talking to you and reaching out to the liaison and just saying, hey, we don't know what's going on. Is there any chance that Haley might be able to come out for the night? This isn't really something I'd like to go through alone, or, her miss the possibility of a last chance to talk to her or see her. And I don't want to say they broke a lot of rules, but they gave me a lot of rules on what I had to be mindful of. And they allowed me to go by and pick her up and took her. We drove straight through the night. Got the call. I was actually here at work. Left here at work when I first got the call that morning. Did all the calling. Picked Haley up that afternoon. Picked the kids up, and we drove to Oklahoma. Got in late at night. We just some random hotel that we decided kind of close to the hospital there in Lawton. Then we ended up staying, and then saw her for a few hours the next morning, and then turned around and drove right back. Tried to adhere to their rules because they had allowed us to do it. So we were very thankful. She's doing well now, but we were very thankful that they allowed us to do that.
Yeah, they truly care about, and I've talked about, I've had on Tyler and Will's,
Yes.
father, Chief Stoy, and the director his father is the chief in Dallas Fire. They do have a soft spot for first responders, and I try to tell everybody that everybody's experience is going to be different, and some things they won't bend on rules wise, and it's a structured environment, and I'm glad they were able to help in a time you're already in a bad spot, and this was going out on a limb, and I have to say I didn't sleep much because I looked at this as these are my friends, this is my case, and I was concerned.
I won't say that I didn't put myself between her and the door there because I wasn't sure how committed she was at that time, but we had no issues.
My biggest fear was that she was not going to return, that she was going to you. That I was just like, yeah,
I would have at least dropped her off now, whether she ran off from there. Yeah,
that's what my biggest fear was. I wasn't worried about her doing something, crazy or stupid. I was worried that she was not going to return, and from my standpoint, I would have looked at that as a failure on my part, because and I'm glad that she went back and finished the process.
I could see the concern more like in the first week or two of going to rehab, and depending on the person's commitment to it. At that point, I think I'd been in there like 3 weeks.
It was something.
Yeah,
like that.
It was closer to the end, and so like the thing
all
is,
your chips were in at that point.
Yeah, well, when you haven't been drinking and you've been like going about a routine, you're starting to feel good again. Like there's not really a point in leaving. Plus, that place is in the middle of the country, and if you leave, they call the cops on you.
Right. Yeah, they have to do a check on a welfare check on, and it's
right. And there's only 2 directions to leave from there on a back road, and so depending on how fast you are and how fast the police are.
Right. Yeah, you hope the response times are.
Yeah, plus what am I going to do? Say, oh, hey, I'm a Dallas police officer. Can you call my husband, who's also a Dallas police officer, to come and get me from being picked up by you?
Well, it's happened. it's there's people been, it wasn't for them. And
yeah, at that point, I had gotten into the routine of it. I knew it was almost over. I think by that point, I I was getting close to earning my privilege of having my phone for an hour a day or whatever.
Right. It is very structured. Right.
Oh yeah, no, it's busy.
We
Actually,
did establish a good pen pal service. We wrote each other.
Yeah,
every
we wrote
night.
each other every day. Toward the end, though, I had to kind of scale back because I had to work on my steps.
Yeah, steps
before I
complete.
got out of there. Yeah, it was a lot of writing and stuff like that.
Well, I'm glad you stayed, and I'm glad you called me, and I'm glad you are where you are now, and it's nice to see. From my end, we've helped a lot of people in this unit, and I take a lot of I'm very honored to be a part of this one, and I take a lot of pride in it too.
I'll say the relationship also and our careers have, like I said, have taken a different direction. It's more in a positive way, even though it allows us to face whatever struggles we do face as in our careers together and not kind of apart the way we felt. And a lot of things we do now together has helped us a lot, and even to the point where we just recently went to a retreat.
Yes, I want to get into Righteous Oaks Retreat.
Righteous
Our
Oaks.
Great friend Chris Webb.
Yes. Chris and Rainey Webb.
Chris and Rainey, man. Chris is my classmate, and he's been on the show quite a few times, and Rainey's actually been on with Shelby Houston's episode, and just beautiful people, great mission. And I will talk about, Crystal Almeida, her episode just hit, and she talked about going through on the first one. And
we were in the fourth.
Yeah, it's still fairly new. But Chris and Rainey, it's a passion. They maxed out every credit card when they got going. And they're making it work now.
Yeah, it was by chance. I was actually helping out another officer that was going. I was helping him write his memo. And I kept telling him, I was like, and you got to tell me more to put in your special assignment memo. You can't just say, I want to go to a retreat. You got to.
You talked to me about that.
You got to tell me what you're doing. And he goes, well, I don't know. I've just been asked to go. I've been nominated to go. And I said, well, can you have a flyer? Anything. And he goes, well, this officer, he used to be an officer, Chris Webb. And I go, what? Chris? I pulled out my phone. I called Chris right there. I said, what the heck is all this about?
What scam is this?
Yeah, what scam is this? And he's like, oh. And so as we started talking, I got the information. And then if you know Chris, sometimes we stayed on the phone, I think, for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Catching up. Both of us been in special operations or tactical operations together for so many years.
Better have some time to waste.
Yes. And so we, as we just talked and talked about some other things, he's like, I don't know how or why I brought up Haley's situation and our situation. He goes, you know what? We've never had a couple. I want to invite you. I kind of thought he wasn't, he was just, and Chris doesn't give lip service, but I didn't know to the extent that it would be. And I'm like, sure. And closer to the date, he started texting us, and then Rainey started texting us and trying to tell Haley, hey, no, really, we're being invited to California, and all we have to do is show up to the airport with a bag of clothes. And she's just like, we kind of, it was hard to believe.
Because originally we thought it was just like a place to stay and the retreat itself. So, we started texting them asking, hey, when do we need to book our flight? Do we need to book a day early? And they go, no, you don't worry about any of that. You just show up. You
literally just show up. And we did. And we're on a plane. And both of us are like, well, I would imagine there's some other cops here. And we're trying to pick out, the other cops on the flight. The obvious one.
511 jackets and the
there was
blue
one guy
t-shirt,
with the ATF patch and a tactical backpack.
Wow.
So we're like, I bet you he's here, going. And when we meet up with Chris and Rainey there at the San Diego airport out front, everybody starts coming together. Like, I knew that wasn't. And there was actually 2 women on the flight with a dog. And I would have never known. They were actually from
Silver hates seeing dogs in public places, so he picks up on it very quickly, and it's like, I don't see the point. And then it turns out that was like the therapy dog for the retreat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he kept coming in and sitting on my lap and everybody's lap. But we all, and Chris told us before we all got into this van, this big cargo van, and like, this is probably going to be one of the quietest rides y'all are going to have. But I'll guarantee you on the return flight, on the return drive, y'all aren't going to shut up. And pretty much, there was one guy that liked to tell stories there on the drive out there. And we were just checking the scenery. Never been in California, Ramona, California. It's right outside of there. And man, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We get to the retreat, which used to be a Young Life retreat, the resort. And man, I can honestly say I was blown away from how nice it was. And I mean, the food was great, and it just all you can eat thick cut bacon.
What did y'all get most from that?
Honestly, it was just relaxing.
Yeah.
Like they had built rest into it a lot. You really didn't have to think about anything.
No pressure.
You didn't have to think about what you were going to eat that day. You didn't have to think about, like, they didn't have, programs back to back to back. Like I was
from
kind of
8 to 9, you got to be here, and from 9 to 10.
Yeah, like in rehab, there's very structured. Like you have
Right.
something every single, you get a break every hour. That's about it. It's almost like being in service, but like all day long. And so this was more, we have a couple things going on today. The rest of the day is yours, just to relax and just decompress from work. So it was nice.
When Chris first brought this up to me, it was in 2017, and that's when we had our 20-year anniversary at the DPA. We had it there. We had a big party, and then we went to a bar after the fact, and we chatted. And he was telling me about this idea he had to basically have a retreat for officers, and they're pampered the entire time.
It did feel like we were on vacation more than it felt like we were working on ourselves, I guess.
But you were working on yourselves. And
They offered
Yeah.
EMDR. I actually went through EMDR.
And that's the first time?
That was the first time. I don't know per se if it worked the way that she was hoping it would, because I can be an open book. Anybody who really gets to me or gets close to me, I'll talk. And if you want to know, or if I want you to know, I'll tell you. I don't hide from myself or my inner feelings, and I will share them. As embarrassing sometimes as it might be, but so when she started bringing things up, I just openly talked about them. I mean, I told her I'll consciously, wherever direction you want to go on this. One thing that did surprise me was our first meeting with everybody. We all sat around everybody's casually lounging on the couches and chairs and stuff, and we're kind of doing the intro. And the guy next to me, come to find out, he was our
He
Attorney
was
General's,
a guest speaker at the end of the week.
the Attorney General's office, the major.
I know. I've heard a story.
Man, that was intense. Yeah. But he started off, and he's choked up, and me trying to, I guess, console him. I go on, I pat him on the shoulder, and now I've got to follow him. And so I'm like, I don't know what, I haven't had an addiction. I haven't had issues like that. So I felt like I was an outsider. And I hadn't heard anybody else's story at this point, but I'm an outsider on this. So as we start talking and just telling a little about myself, I start finding myself a little choked up here and there, I guess dealing with the resentment from my divorce or the way I gave to the department that took away from my family at that time, and which would lead to a lot of things, and how I've changed the way I live my life and the way I live with my family. I make sure to give back to my family first. Haley and my kids come first, where before I gave a lot more to the mounted unit. Everything was about mounted. I was there if a horse was sick, if a horse was hot, whatever it was, I jumped and I ran and I took care of them horses. But I'm not there anymore, but it was a great time in my life.
It showed you a different perspective and self-awareness that you didn't have.
So we go around and I realized I might have some issues that I didn't realize.
Of course.
And then listening to everybody else's stories, I'm like, wow, whatever I feel like I have is always somebody else always got it worse. And these officers that have gone through some serious stuff, and I feel very honored that they shared those with us because it put a lot of things in perspective.
We've experienced that a couple of times where people say like, yeah, I've got it bad, but other people have it worse. Or, my trauma doesn't compare to their trauma. And what we've learned is that the brain doesn't tell the difference between trauma, right? Trauma's trauma.
True.
So whether you experience whatever you've gone through versus what somebody else has gone through, it's not really a competition, right?
Yeah.
That's a weird thing with it. I do have a question for you real quick. How long had you been in contact with Joe before things got moving?
Say about 2 months. What would you say?
It's really hard to
Maybe.
remember. It was so
Maybe 2
it
or
was
3
so
months.
off and on and
Yeah.
sporadic. It's hard to remember. Maybe
I think I first maybe made some comments, but I hadn't come down and talked to you and said like, I got to figure something out to save my marriage, to save my career, to save my wife's career, to save us. I've got to figure something out. What can you help me with, or what do you have any advice? And I've known Joe since the academy, so I guess you go to things that you feel are
That you trust.
comfortable.
I don't want to toot his horn too much because he's already kind of, I'm a celebrity. Look at me, I'm Dak
He's about
Prescott.
he's about 2 foot
Yeah.
taller.
yeah, yeah.
But a lot of the success for the alcohol leave policy and the wellness unit are because there are people here that people can trust.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, I keep trying to tell Joe, like, people wouldn't come talk to just anybody. They come to talk to Joe, right? And I know his wife's going to throw up right now, but
Yeah,
there's truth
She'll
to
knock
that.
me down once she hears this.
Yeah, there's only so many people that you'll actually open up to and talk to, and it's fortunate that we have someone like that in the wellness unit. And Haley, I think it's fortunate for you that you have somebody who's as persistent as Silver is. I mean, from having to ask you out over and over and over, to really staying with you and saying, hey, I want you to do this. Like, I need you to do this, and just being persistent with trying to get things done. I know he's a pain in the ass because you didn't want to do it the whole time, but once you did, you had somebody in your corner to help you through that, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, the support it's been eye-opening because a lot of people, whenever they start having little frustrations in their relationship, they dip out.
Yeah.
And I would say I put him through the ringer, and he stuck it out.
I said we crawl through hell to stroll through heaven.
I've actually been very apprehensive to really talk to people about this, but I feel like if it can help one person, then I'll do it.
Well, there's more than one person that's going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And I know we all think that our problems are unique and super personal and nobody's ever done it. But
It's not that. I just, it's vulnerable. You're
For sure.
really letting people know a lot about your personal life.
yeah.
Well, I
and-
said nobody listens to us anyway.
I listen.
But thank you for doing it. I told you before, like, this is a huge thing for you to do, and it's very commendable to put yourself out there in order to help other people.
Well, the 12th step is service to others, and
Oh,
if somebody
yes.
can get something from your story, Kent's story, my story, Silver's story, it's worth it. If one person looks at something from a different point of view, and it may have nothing to do with alcohol. It could be a perspective of trying to take on children, or motherhood, or fatherhood, right? There's value in everybody's stories, and you're talking about going around the horn and hearing everybody's stories, and there is power in those stories, and there's learning and experiences from those stories, and that's why we started doing this back in 2021, and that's why stories like this are extremely valuable to somebody. And you don't know who may be listening. It may be somebody in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Shout out Matt Janishek. He actually stopped drinking after listening to Dre's episodes multiple times. So he is over a year sober, and
That's awesome.
yeah. So, and you never know where who will be inspired by what you've done and the resiliency that you've had and you continue to have.
Yeah. I mean, legitimately, this is the longest I've been sober in my adult life. I think I got out 2 Mays ago. The May before last.
The May before last. Well, April 10th was the day that I dropped you off. Still
Oh,
remember
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's
My-
something to be very proud of. I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of both of you.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's important to say it too. I'm proud of you for going through what you did and doing it.
I think the longest I legitimately had ever made since I've been an adult was maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month, usually more a week.
What was the first time Alaha?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was the
32 days.
Yeah.
Or 28 or whatever it was.
You know, I think both of y'all as individuals, and I think a lot about y'all as a couple, and I think that a lot of people can learn from both of your experiences individually and together, and I think people will. So, I do have a final question for both of y'all. What guidance would you give other couples out there that are going through something similar, but they aren't quite sure where to begin or how to support their partner?
It's got to begin in communication, being truthful and honest with each other in your feelings and the ability to express those feelings to the other person. Their acceptance or how they receive it will be the tell. But you got to be able to communicate. I mean, the first words.
If you recognize that you have a problem and you want to get help, you have to have the courage to do it. Your family will be fine while you're gone for a month. I know that's hard for us to believe, but with the decisions that you're making in active addiction, like you could be gone tomorrow, whether you're in jail or you're gone. Your family can manage without you for a month. And I feel like a lot of us feel like that is not the case. You just have to go for it. The thing is, my life is so immensely better since I got sober. It is wild how my weekends are. My sleep is better, I eat better, I feel better. So, I mean, the biggest thing to me is if you're ready to make that commitment, just do it. It's huge. And the thing is, going to rehab, getting away from your phone, you can't pay attention to what's going on at home, you can't pay attention to the news. You honestly can't really pay attention to anything negative. And so it really gives you the opportunity to focus on yourself. And as parents, spouses, police officers, we don't get that opportunity. You know, there's always somebody else that we need to take care of or pay attention to. And so this really gives you the opportunity to focus on yourself and to figure out why you're going through this in the first place and what's drawing you to it.
Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Down when you're lonely, and I'll pull you up. Life leaves you heavy when the going gets tough. I'll be your shoulder, together we'll run up from the bottom, yeah, we'll rise above. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far, for the gold and the blue, I'll never give up on me.